My name is Julia Anderson, and at 27, I never expected to be both a tech millionaire and the family disappointment. When I reluctantly drove to my father Robert's 60th birthday dinner last month, I had no idea my carefully hidden success was about to be exposed. For years, I kept my app development fortune secret from my money-obsessed brother Aaron and my parents who never thought I would amount to anything. Walking into that house filled me with the same childhood dread I thought I had outgrown. If you want to know how quickly family can turn on you when millions are involved, stick around. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that subscribe button and get ready for the most painful betrayal I never saw coming. Growing up as the different child in the Anderson family was like being a square peg constantly forced into a round hole. From my earliest memories, I knew I didn't quite fit the mold my parents had created. While my brother Aaron was the golden child, the athlete, the social butterfly who brought home trophies and popularity, I was the quiet one with her nose always buried in computer code and science books. My father Robert was a successful insurance salesman, the type of man who valued appearances, conventional achievement, and social standing above all else. My mother Diane was a perfectionist homemaker whose entire identity revolved around maintaining our family's image in our upper-middle-class neighborhood. Together, they created a household where conformity wasn't just expected, it was demanded. The favoritism started small, almost imperceptible to outsiders. When Aaron made the junior varsity football team in 9th grade, my parents rearranged their entire work schedules to attend every single game. They cheered from the sidelines, wearing matching shirts with his jersey number, and hosted elaborate team dinners afterward. That same year, when I qualified for the state science competition, my mother told me they unfortunately couldn't take time off work to drive me the 2 hours to the event. I ended up taking the bus alone and winning second place. No one was home when I returned with my silver medal, as they were at Aaron's regular season game. For Aaron's 16th birthday, my parents surprised him with a brand new Jeep Wrangler, complete with custom rims and a premium sound system. Every young man needs reliable transportation, my father announced proudly at the elaborate party they threw him. When my 16th birthday rolled around 3 years later, I received practical luggage. "You'll need this for college," my mother explained, not meeting my eyes. The unspoken message was clear. Aaron was meant to stay and be celebrated, while I was meant to leave. College selection further highlighted the disparity. Aaron struggled academically, but was accepted to our father's alma mater with a partial athletic scholarship. My parents proudly covered the considerable remaining tuition, his apartment, and living expenses. They flew out for parents' weekends and sent care packages weekly. Meanwhile, despite my full academic scholarship to MIT, I worked 3 jobs to cover my living expenses. "Your scholarship should be enough," my father said dismissively when I asked for help with books. Besides, learning to support yourself builds character. During those challenging college years, coding became more than just my passion, it became my escape and salvation. While my roommates partied on weekends, I worked at the campus IT department, waitressed at a local diner, and developed small applications in my sparse free time. Each line of code felt like building a ladder that would eventually help me climb out of my family's shadow. "When are you going to get a real job?" my mother asked during one of our infrequent phone calls during my senior year. I had just shared my excitement about an internship offer from a respected tech startup. "This is a real job, Mom. The tech industry is booming right now," I explained, already knowing my words would fall on deaf ears. "Julia, honey, computers are fine as a hobby, but you need stability. Have you considered teaching? Or perhaps human resources? Something sensible for a young woman." These conversations became so predictable that I gradually reduced contact to obligatory holiday calls and the occasional family event. It was easier to maintain minimal contact than to constantly defend my choices and career path. 3 years ago, everything changed when the productivity app one developed with my business partner Stephanie took off unexpectedly. What started as a solution to our own organizational struggles became an overnight sensation after a major tech influencer featured it on his platform. Within months, we secured significant venture capital funding, expanded our team, and watched our user base grow exponentially. Suddenly, at 24, I found myself with more financial success than I ever imagined possible. My net worth climbed into 7 figures, then 8. Business magazines wanted interviews. Investors sought meetings. It was surreal and overwhelming, but I was determined not to let it change who I was or what I valued. I made a deliberate decision to keep my financial success private, especially from my status-obsessed family. It wasn't about revenge or withholding, it was self-preservation. Growing up, I had watched how my parents treated people based on their perceived value and utility. I had no interest in suddenly becoming useful to them after years of being dismissed. The morning of my father's 60th birthday, I stood in my walk-in closet trying to select an outfit that wouldn't draw attention. I settled on dark jeans, a simple blouse, and minimal jewelry, purposely avoiding any designer labels or flashy accessories that might raise questions. I wrapped his gift, a vintage fishing lure I had tracked down that matched one from his childhood he had often mentioned losing, and prepared myself mentally for the evening ahead. Walking into my childhood home that evening felt like stepping back in time. The same formal living room that had been off limits to us as children. The same family photos lining the hallway, chronicling Aaron's achievements with a few token images of me added almost as an afterthought. The same faint scent of my mother's overpowering floral perfume mingling with furniture polish. "Julia, you finally made it," my mother Diane said, air-kissing both my cheeks while giving me a quick once-over. "You look comfortable. I suppose casual is the trend in your industry." "Hi, Mom," I replied, forcing a smile. "Happy birthday, Dad." My father gave me a brief, stiff hug. "Thanks for coming, kiddo. Aaron and Rachel are already here with the kids." I followed him into the dining room where my brother Aaron sat at the table, his wife Rachel arranging their children's plates. Aaron had followed perfectly in our father's footsteps, becoming a real estate agent with the same slicked back hair and overconfident smile. His wife Rachel was perpetually anxious, always trying to please everyone in the room simultaneously. "Little sister," Aaron exclaimed with exaggerated enthusiasm, standing to hug me. "Long time no see. Still doing that computer thing. Still doing that computer thing." I confirmed with a tight smile, noticing how his designer watch peeked out from under his custom suit cuff, despite his frequent complaints about business being slow. Rachel gave me a genuine but harried smile. "Julia, so good to see you. Emma and Jacob have been asking about their Aunt Julia." Her eyes darted nervously between me and Aaron, and I wondered, not for the first time, what it was like being married into our family dynamics. Dinner proceeded exactly as I expected. My father dominated the conversation with stories about his glory days and current golf achievements. My mother fussed over the perfect presentation of each course while making subtle critical comments about everyone's life choices except Aaron's. Aaron boasted about properties he was close to selling and name-dropped local celebrities he had allegedly met at networking events. I answered questions about my work vaguely, downplaying any success. When asked directly about my company, I mentioned we were doing well and quickly redirected the conversation. It was a dance I had performed many times, revealing just enough to satisfy curiosity without inviting deeper interrogation. What I didn't realize was that this particular performance was about to have an unexpected final act. Midway through the main course, my phone vibrated in my pocket. Normally, I would ignore calls during family dinner, but seeing Stephanie's name flash across my screen sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. We had been in negotiations with a major tech company about acquiring our app, and Stephanie would only call during off hours if something significant had happened. "Excuse me," I said, standing from the table. "I need to take this. Work emergency." My mother's lips tightened in disapproval, but I was already walking toward the back patio, sliding the glass door closed behind me for privacy. "Stephanie, What's going on? I asked, my heart racing. Julia, they came back with an offer, Stephanie said, her voice brimming with barely contained excitement. 15 million. Clean acquisition. With 2-year contracts for both of us to stay on during transition. My knees weakened, and I gripped the patio railing for support. 15 million? That's 3 million more than their last offer. I know. Apparently the user growth numbers from last quarter sealed the deal. They want us, Julia. They want us bad. I took a deep breath, staring up at the darkening sky. What about the team? The terms we discussed for our employees. All approved. Everyone gets their retention bonuses, stock options converted at the higher valuation. Nobody loses their job. It's all in the updated offer letter they just sent over. And the app itself? They're committed to maintaining the core functionality for existing users. For minimum 5 years. Guaranteed in writing. After that, they'll reassess based on performance metrics, but they've made it clear they're acquiring us because the app works, not to strip it for parts. We discussed specific terms for another 10 minutes, diving into the financial details, timing expectations, and what this meant for our company's future. It wasn't just about the money. It was validation of everything we had built. Years of late nights, rejected investor pitches, and technical challenges had culminated in this moment. We need to review the paperwork with Thomas tomorrow, I said, referring to our attorney. But if everything checks out as you've described, I think we're ready to move forward. Agreed. This is it, Julia. This is what we've worked for. $15 million. Can you believe it? I laughed, a mixture of disbelief and pure joy. Honestly? No. I need to process this. Let's talk first thing tomorrow. As I ended the call and turned to go back inside, a movement caught my eye. Through the glass door. I could see Aaron quickly stepping away from where he had clearly been standing, listening to my entire conversation. My stomach dropped as I watched him hurry back to the dining table, leaning over to whisper something to Rachel, whose eyes widened in response. I stood frozen for a moment, my mind racing. How much had he heard? The full 15 million figure? The acquisition details? All of it? Taking a steadying breath, I plastered on a neutral expression and returned to the table. Everything okay with work? My father asked, clearly annoyed at the interruption to his birthday dinner. Just a small issue with a client, I lied smoothly. All resolved now. I noticed immediately that Aaron's demeanor toward me had shifted completely. Where before he had been dismissively cordial, now he was intently interested, watching me with calculating eyes. So, Julia, he said, leaning forward, you never really talk much about your company. What exactly do you do again? Something with apps, right? Yes, we develop productivity software. I answered carefully. Nothing very exciting. Oh, I don't know about that. Aaron persisted with a new, unsettling smile. Tech is where all the money is these days, isn't it? I read somewhere that even small apps can be worth millions. Rachel looked uncomfortable, avoiding my eyes as she unnecessarily rearranged her silverware. Some are, some aren't. I said with a shrug. It's a volatile industry. My mother, oblivious to the sudden tension, announced it was time for gifts. I silently thanked her for the interruption, hoping it would redirect Aaron's newfound interest. The family moved to the living room, where my father took his place in his favorite armchair, ready to receive his presents. I gave him the vintage fishing lure first, explaining the effort I had put into tracking down the exact model he had lost as a child. Well, would you look at that, he said, turning it over in his hands with genuine surprise. It's just like the one Grandpa gave me. How did you find this? I remembered your stories about fishing with Grandpa, I explained. I tracked it down through some collector forums online. For a brief moment, there was a flash of real connection between us, a rare instance where he seemed to see me, really see me. Then Aaron cleared his throat, and the moment was gone. My turn, Aaron announced, presenting my father with an elaborate wrapped box. Inside was an ostentatious luxury watch that must have cost thousands, a purchase that made no sense given Aaron's frequent complaints about struggling to make mortgage payments. This is too much. Son, my father said, though his eyes gleamed with obvious pleasure as he immediately put it on. Nothing's too good for you, Dad, Aaron replied, shooting me a triumphant look. As we moved to the dining room for cake and coffee, Aaron strategically steered the conversation toward my company again. So, Julia, he began casually. I heard there's a lot of acquisition activity in the tech space right now. Any interest in your company? I nearly choked on my coffee. The question was too specific, too knowing. Some companies get acquisition interest, I hedged. It's common in the industry. 15 million would be quite the payday, Aaron said, his eyes locked on mine. Especially split between just two founders. The room went silent. My mother's wine glass slipped from her fingers, spilling red liquid across the white tablecloth. My father's face reddened, his fork suspended midway to his mouth. What did you say? My father asked, turning to stare at me with new eyes. Julia's company is being acquired for $15 million. Aaron stated confidently. She just got the offer tonight. That's what her urgent phone call was about. Is this true? My mother demanded, no longer concerned about the spreading wine stain. I felt cornered, trapped. Well, we've been in negotiations, but nothing is finalized. These things are complicated and often fall through. But the offer is $15 million? My father pressed, his birthday completely forgotten now. The current offer is in that range, yes, I admitted reluctantly. But there are a lot of factors involved, including taxes, investor payouts, employee retention packages. My God, my mother whispered, her eyes calculating rapidly. All this time you've been, what? Secretly wealthy? While your brother has been struggling to expand his business. While we've been helping him with his children's private school tuition. I've worked extremely hard for 7 years to build this company, I said defensively. And my finances aren't really family discussion material. Of course they are, my father said firmly. We're family. Family supports each other. Family shares. The remainder of the evening was excruciating. Every interaction was suddenly tinged with a new awareness. My parents, who had barely shown interest in my career for years, now wanted detailed explanations of my company structure, the acquisition timeline, and exact figures regarding my personal payout. Aaron kept making pointed comments about family loyalty and his children's future. As I prepared to leave, my mother hugged me with unprecedented warmth. We should have lunch soon, just us girls. It's been too long since we really talked. My father clapped a hand on my shoulder. I always knew you'd do well, kiddo. Always believed in you. Aaron embraced me last, whispering in my ear. We need to talk business soon. I have some investment opportunities you might be interested in. Driving home, my hands shook on the steering wheel. The validation I had secretly hoped for from my family had arrived, but it felt hollow and transactional, directly proportional to my newfound value to them. I called my best friend Chloe the moment I got home. They've found out about the acquisition, I said without preamble. Aaron overheard my call with Stephanie. Oh no, Chloe responded, knowing immediately the implications. How bad was it? Bad. The whole dynamic changed instantly. Suddenly I'm the favorite daughter they always believed in. Aaron's already hinting about investment opportunities. You know what comes next, right? Chloe said grimly. Yeah, I sighed, sinking onto my couch. The ask. It's coming. I can feel it. I had no idea just how quickly or how forcefully that ask would arrive. The next morning, my phone exploded with notifications. 3 missed calls from my mother, 2 from my father. And a text message that simply read, family meeting at our house today. 2 p.m., important to discuss recent developments. I called Chloe immediately. They've scheduled a family meeting for this afternoon. About the money? Chloe asked, though we both knew the answer. What else? They barely contacted me for months before this. Don't go alone, Chloe advised firmly. Take someone with you, or better yet, don't go at all. This has ambush written all over it. Maybe they just want to congratulate me properly, I said, realizing how naive that sounded even as the words left my mouth. Julia, I love you, but sometimes you're still that little girl hoping for her parents' approval. These people have shown you who they are for 27 years. Believe them. Deep down, I knew she was right, but there was still that small, stubborn part of me that hoped this could be a turning point, that perhaps learning about my success would make my parents see me differently. Make them proud of the daughter they had always overlooked. I'll be careful, I promised. And I'll call you right after. At exactly 2 p.m., I pulled into my parents' driveway, immediately noticing Aaron's Mercedes already parked there, despite his recent complaints about business being tough and money being tight. The house looked exactly as it always had, meticulously maintained to project success and stability to neighbors and visitors. It had never felt like a safe space for me, even when I lived there. My mother answered the door before I could knock, ushering me in with unusual enthusiasm. Julia, darling, right on time. Everyone's waiting in the living room. The scene that greeted me resembled a formal tribunal more than a family gathering. My father sat in his leather armchair, hands steepled under his chin. Aaron and Rachel occupied the sofa. Though Rachel looked distinctly uncomfortable, her eyes darting around the room, refusing to meet mine. A chair had been positioned directly across from them, clearly intended for me. Have a seat. Julia, my father directed, using the same authoritative tone he had employed throughout my childhood when discussing my disappointing report cards or concerning career aspirations. I sat down, acutely aware of the power dynamic they were attempting to establish. So, what's this meeting about? My father cleared his throat. First, we want to say congratulations on your business success. It's quite impressive. The compliment sounded rehearsed, lacking any genuine warmth. Thank you, I replied cautiously. That said, we need to discuss what this means for our family, he continued. Family takes care of family. That's always been our way. My mother jumped in, her voice taking on the dramatic quality she reserved for neighborhood gossip or church prayer requests. Julia, you have no idea the sacrifices we made for you. My pregnancy with you was so difficult, not like with Aaron. 6 months of bed rest, medical bills piling up. I blinked in confusion. I had never heard this story before, despite my mother's tendency to remind us of every perceived sacrifice or inconvenience. And your college years, she continued. All those expensive computer camps when you were younger. We invested in your future. The computer camp I attended was on scholarship, I reminded her gently. And I worked 3 jobs to put myself through college after my academic scholarship. You covered Aaron's tuition, not mine. My father waved his hand dismissively. The point is, family supports each other. Right now, Aaron is at a crucial point in his real estate career. He needs capital to expand his business. The private school tuition for Emma and Jacob is increasing next year. Your brother has responsibilities. Aaron sat smugly beside Rachel, his arm draped possessively over her shoulders. She continued to avoid eye contact with me. What exactly are you asking? I said, though I already knew. We think, my father stated firmly, that you should help your brother with a significant investment. $2 million would give him the boost he needs to really establish himself. After all, $15 million is more than any single person needs. I took a deep breath. The acquisition isn't finalized yet. There are still negotiations, contracts to sign, regulatory approvals. And even after that, much of that money is already allocated to investors, taxes, employee retention. Don't lie to us, my mother snapped, her pleasant facade cracking instantly. We know what these tech deals are worth. We've done our research since last night. You've always been a burden to this family, she continued, her voice rising. Always difficult, always different. Never fitting in with what this family stands for. At least do the right thing for once. Her words hit me like a physical blow. A burden. That's how they had always seen me, even now. If the situation was reversed, Aaron interjected smoothly, I would help you out. That's what siblings do. A memory flashed through my mind, razor sharp in its clarity. 10 years ago. I had asked Aaron to co-sign a small loan for my first laptop for college when our parents refused. Not my problem, he had said with a shrug. Maybe you should study something they approve of. This isn't about a small loan or temporary help, I said quietly. You're asking for $2 million, which is just a drop in the bucket for you now, my father pointed out. Look, we've supported this family for decades. Now it's your turn to step up. Aaron has children to think about, a legacy to build. And what about my future? I asked. My potential children someday? My retirement? The charitable foundation I've been planning. My mother scoffed. Always so selfish. Thinking about yourself when your brother has real, immediate needs. I tried a different approach. Let me explain how the acquisition actually works financially. The company valuation is $15 million, but that doesn't mean I personally receive $15 million. Our investors get their percentage first, which is about 40%. Then there are taxes, which will take approximately another 30%. The remaining amount is split between Stephanie and myself, and a portion goes to employee retention packages we negotiated. My actual take-home will be significantly less than you're imagining. Stop trying to confuse us with technical details, my father said sharply. The bottom line is you'll have millions and your brother needs help. It's very simple. It's not simple at all. I insisted. This is my life's work, not a lottery win. My mother's expression hardened. We kept track, you know. Every dance lesson, every doctor's appointment, every school supply. We have it all written down what we spent raising you. I stared at her in disbelief. You itemized my childhood expenses? We invested in you, my father stated firmly. Now we're simply asking for a return on that investment. The realization hit me fully then. This meeting hadn't been spontaneous. Arranged in the emotional aftermath of discovering my financial situation. They had discussed this beforehand, strategized together, prepared arguments and emotional manipulation tactics. This was a coordinated effort to extract money from me, framed as family obligation. I looked at Rachel, searching for any sign of discomfort or disagreement with what was happening. She met my eyes briefly before looking away, her face flushed with what appeared to be shame. Standing up, I gathered my purse and keys. I need to think about all this. The acquisition isn't even finalized yet. There's nothing to discuss until that happens. Julia, don't walk away from this family, my father called after me as I headed for the door. Family is all that matters in the end. Think about your niece and nephew, my mother added. What kind of aunt refuses to help secure their future? In my car. The full weight of what had just happened crashed over me. The naked greed, the emotional manipulation, the transactional view of family relationships, it was all so much worse than I had anticipated. Tears blurred my vision as I drove away, memories of a lifetime of conditional love flooding back with devastating clarity. Over the next week, the barrage of manipulative communications was relentless. My phone became a source of anxiety, each notification triggering a fresh wave of dread. My parents alternated between guilt-inducing messages, angry accusations, and false concern about my well-being, all thinly veiling their singular focus on accessing my impending wealth. Just checking in on you, sweetheart, my mother texted on Tuesday morning. We're worried you've been working too hard. Why don't you come over for dinner tonight? We can talk about your future. When I politely declined, citing work commitments, her tone shifted immediately. After everything we've done for you, you can't spare one evening for your family? This is exactly the selfishness we've always worried about. My father's approach was more direct. I've run the numbers. $2 million for Aaron leaves you more than enough. Be reasonable. Meanwhile, Aaron launched what could only be described as a social media campaign of passive-aggressive posts, never mentioning me by name, but clearly designed to paint himself as the victim of family betrayal. Some people forget where they came from when success finds them, he wrote alongside a throwback photo of our family. True character shows when prosperity arrives. The most disturbing development came when extended family members began calling me, having been fed a distorted version of events. My father's sister Jane, who I had always been close with, called sounding concerned. Julia, honey, I heard there's some tension with your parents. They say you've come into quite a bit of money and are refusing to help Aaron with his children's education. That doesn't sound like you. It became clear that my parents were systematically contacting everyone in our extended family, controlling the narrative and positioning me as the villain. I scheduled an emergency meeting with my financial advisor Madison and attorney Thomas to discuss the situation. Madison's expression grew increasingly concerned as I explained the family pressure. "Julia, I need to be very direct with you," Madison said after I finished recounting recent events. "Based on what you've shared about your brother's spending habits versus his claimed financial struggles, this sounds like someone with significant debt or financial mismanagement issues." "What do you mean?" I asked. "The expensive car, the luxury watch for your father, the designer clothes, none of that aligns with someone who truly can't afford his children's school tuition," she explained. "I see this pattern often, unfortunately. People living beyond their means, accumulating debt, then looking for a bailout rather than addressing their spending habits." Thomas, my attorney, nodded in agreement. "Additionally, there's absolutely no legal obligation for you to provide financial support to your brother or parents. Any money you give them would be a gift, not an obligation or an investment. And once given," Madison added grimly, "you should assume it's gone forever." The investment terminology they're using is particularly concerning, as it suggests they believe they're entitled to returns on your success. I left their office with a clearer perspective but an even heavier heart. This wasn't just about one request for money. It was about a fundamental worldview that saw relationships as transactional and family members as financial resources to be utilized. That afternoon, my building security called to inform me my parents were in the lobby, insisting they needed to see me regarding an urgent family matter. The security footage showed my mother crying dramatically to the sympathetic doorman, claiming they were worried sick about me. Against my better judgment, I told security to allow them up. I couldn't hide forever, and perhaps facing them directly would allow me to establish firm boundaries. The moment my door opened, my mother launched into a performance worthy of a daytime soap opera, rushing forward with outstretched arms. "Julia, we've been so worried. You haven't been answering our calls properly. Are you okay? You look tired." My father stood behind her, his expression stern and unyielding. "We need to resolve this situation, Julia. The family tension isn't good for anyone." I invited them to sit, maintaining a calm exterior despite my racing heart. "There's nothing to resolve. The acquisition is still in process, and my financial decisions are my own to make." "That's where you're wrong," my father said, his voice hardening. "Family finances are family business. Your grandfather helped me start my insurance agency. I helped Aaron with his first property purchase. That's how this family operates. You didn't help me start my company," I pointed out quietly. "I built it myself with Stephanie." "Because you never asked," my mother exclaimed. "You were always so independent, so determined to prove you didn't need us." "I asked for help with college tuition," I reminded her. "I was told to handle it myself." My father waved this away impatiently. "Ancient history. We're talking about now, about your responsibility to this family moving forward." "Your brother has been working so hard," my mother added, her voice quavering perfectly. "You have no idea the sacrifices he makes for his children. He works weekends, holidays." While driving a brand new Mercedes and wearing designer suits, I finished for her. My father's face darkened. "Now you're just being petty." "Appearances matter in his business. He needs to project success." "I need to be perfectly clear," I said, keeping my voice steady. "My financial decisions are mine alone. I've worked incredibly hard to build my company. The money from this acquisition represents years of 80-hour weeks, missed vacations, and financial risk." "And what about our years of raising you?" my mother countered. "The sacrifices we made? The college application fees we paid? The roof over your head for 18 years? That was your obligation as parents who chose to have a child," I said quietly. "Not an investment with expected returns." My father's expression turned cold. "I see. Well, if that's how you feel about family obligation, perhaps you should know that your continued inclusion in this family Including your place in our will and any future relationship with your niece and nephew depends on your willingness to support your brother in his time of need. The naked threat hung in the air between us. Despite my successful adult life, the childhood programming ran deep, and I felt myself wavering under the familiar pressure to conform, to please, to be the good daughter they had never believed I could be. After they left, I found myself unable to focus on work, the acquisition negotiations, or anything else. Childhood insecurities I thought I had outgrown came rushing back, overwhelming my usual confidence. Despite all my success, part of me still desperately wanted my parents' approval, their love, their acknowledgement that I was worthy. The impact on my professional life became impossible to ignore. During critical calls with our acquisition team, I found myself distracted, missing important details. Stephanie noticed immediately. "What's going on with you?" she asked after a particularly unproductive meeting. "You're not yourself lately." When I explained the situation, her expression shifted from concern to outrage. "Julia, this is financial abuse, plain and simple. Your family is trying to exploit you." Her words hit home. But breaking free of lifelong emotional patterns proved incredibly difficult. It took the combined intervention of Stephanie, Chloe, and my boyfriend Andrew to help me see the situation clearly. Andrew suggested a joint therapy session with Dr. Melissa Carter, a family systems therapist he had worked with after his own divorce. During that transformative 2-hour session, Dr. Carter helped me recognize the lifetime of manipulation I had endured. "What you're describing," she explained gently, "is a classic family dynamic where one child is designated as the giver while others are entitled to receive. Your success threatens the established order. So they're attempting to reestablish control by making financial demands disguised as family obligation." With Dr. Carter's guidance, I drafted a clear, firm email to my family, setting boundaries for the first time in my life. I value family relationships based on mutual respect and genuine care. Until we can establish that foundation, I need to step back from our current dynamic. I will not be discussing my finances further. I hope we can rebuild our relationship on healthier terms in the future. My parents' response was swift and vengeful. Somehow, they managed to share private details about our family situation with a local business journal, resulting in a small but damaging article. "Tech entrepreneur abandons struggling family despite millions." Though the article was mostly speculation and carefully worded to avoid outright libel, it raised questions about my character and values at precisely the moment when my professional reputation was under the microscope during acquisition talks. Several business partners called me directly, expressing concern about the article and its potential impact on our deal. That evening, alone in my apartment, I experienced my first panic attack in years, feeling the walls closing in as both my personal and professional lives seemed to be spiraling out of control simultaneously. 3 weeks after my father's birthday dinner, a certified letter arrived from a law firm I didn't recognize. With shaking hands, I opened it to find a formal document claiming my parents had made significant investments in my education and development that entitled them to reasonable financial consideration in light of my substantial windfall. The letter wasn't technically a lawsuit, but rather an intimidation tactic designed to frighten me into compliance. Thomas, my attorney, confirmed this after reviewing the document. "This has no legal merit whatsoever," he assured me. "Parents are legally obligated to provide for their minor children's basic needs. There's no such thing as a retroactive investment claim on adult children's earnings." Nevertheless, the psychological impact was devastating. My own parents had hired an attorney to threaten me, to frighten me into giving my brother money. Meanwhile, Aaron had begun spreading detailed rumors throughout our hometown. Old high school classmates, former neighbors, even my first boss at the local bookstore, all reached out with variations of, "I heard about your family situation, are you okay?" Each conversation revealed another piece of Aaron's smear campaign, each story more distorted than the last. The most alarming development came when Stephanie called me, her voice tight with controlled anger. Jutech Innovations just contacted me directly, she said, referring to the company in negotiations to acquire us. Apparently your brother reached out to their acquisition team, offering important family context about our company leadership. What? I gasped, genuinely shocked. How did he even know who to contact? He mentioned the company name in his email. He must have been researching potential buyers after overhearing your conversation. Fortunately, their team recognized it as inappropriate and alerted me immediately. What did he say to them? I asked, dreading the answer. He implied you were unstable, financially irresponsible, and potentially hiding company problems. He suggested they perform extra due diligence before finalizing any deal. It was a direct attack on not just my personal reputation, but my professional credibility, the foundation of everything I had worked for. Aaron was willing to potentially sabotage a career-defining deal, affecting not just me but our entire team, all in pursuit of money he hadn't earned. That evening, alone in my apartment, I experienced a complete emotional collapse. Years of maintaining strength in the face of family rejection, of building success despite their lack of support, of holding on to hope that someday they would see my worth, it all came crashing down around me. I questioned every relationship in my life, wondering if anyone truly cared for me beyond what I could provide for them. In this darkest moment, I received an unexpected call from Eleanor Martinez, my first professional mentor from my internship days. We had stayed loosely in touch over the years, and she had reached out after seeing the Business Journal article, concerned about its implications. Julia, I rarely interfere in others' personal matters, she began, but what you're describing sounds frighteningly familiar. My own family behaved similarly when my first company went public. For the next hour, Eleanor shared her experience with family members who had emerged from the woodwork when her financial situation changed, how they had used every emotional lever available to extract money from her, how she had nearly destroyed herself trying to please people who saw her only as a resource. I recognize the signs of family financial abuse, she said firmly. The guilt, the obligation, the emotional manipulation, the escalating tactics when initial attempts fail. You're not crazy, and you're not alone in experiencing this. Her validation was like oxygen when I had been drowning. For the first time, I felt truly seen and understood by someone who had walked this exact path before me. The very next day, my parents escalated to their most desperate tactic yet. They showed up at my company's office with Aaron's children in tow, creating a scene in the reception area. Through the glass walls of my office, I watched in horror as my mother knelt dramatically beside my niece and nephew, pointing toward my office and clearly instructing them about something. Your Aunt Julia works in there. I could see her saying to the confused children, she has lots of money but doesn't want to share with your daddy. When I went out to confront them, my father immediately pushed the children forward. Look who came to see their aunt. They miss you so much, Julia. The children, clearly uncomfortable and confused by the tension, hugged me half-heartedly. 7-year-old Emma looked up at me with innocent confusion. Grandma says you're taking my college money. Is that true? I felt physically ill. Using children as emotional pawns was beyond anything I had anticipated, even from them. Emma, that's not true at all, I said gently, kneeling to her level. Grown-up finances are complicated. But I love you very much. Aaron stepped forward, putting his hands on his children's shoulders possessively. We're just trying to keep this family together, Julia. The kids need their aunt in their lives. The implied threat was clear. Access to my niece and nephew was now contingent on financial compliance. That evening, while reviewing emails related to the acquisition, I stumbled across something that stopped me cold. In a thread I had been copied on regarding due diligence procedures, there was a forwarded message from an unknown email address offering important background information about me. The acquisition team had appropriately flagged it as irrelevant and potentially malicious. Out of curiosity, I searched the email address in my company's system and discovered it had sent multiple messages to different team members. When I accessed the original messages, I found they had come from an address using my mother's maiden name. Further investigation revealed something even more disturbing. In one of the emails, there was a reference to our agreed arrangement and the management fee. Confused, I kept digging until I found an email that had been sent to multiple team members but caught in our spam filters. It contained a detailed proposal. Aaron would receive $2 million from me, of which my parents would take $500,000 as a management fee for facilitating the family financial arrangement. They had literally planned to take a commission on the money they were pressuring me to give my brother. The email laid out their strategy in black and white: pressure me from multiple angles, involve extended family, threaten my relationship with my niece and nephew, and, if necessary, create professional complications until I complied. Seeing their manipulation documented so explicitly was both devastating and strangely liberating. There was no more room for doubt, no more questioning whether I was overreacting or misunderstanding their intentions. The complete picture of lifelong manipulation was finally clear, undeniable in its calculated cruelty. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, surrounded by the symbols of success I had worked so hard to achieve, yet feeling utterly empty inside. For so many years, I had been chasing approval from people incapable of giving it, seeking validation from those who only saw me as a means to an end. As the night deepened, I found myself at a crossroads. I could continue allowing my family's toxicity to poison both my personal happiness and professional achievement, or I could finally break free from patterns established in childhood and take control of my own narrative. The decision, when it finally crystallized around 3 a.m., felt less like a choice and more like the only possible path forward. The next morning, I contacted a specialized legal team recommended by Eleanor, experts in family financial disputes and emotional blackmail situations. Under their guidance, I began systematically documenting the lifetime of financial disparity between Aaron and myself, creating a comprehensive record that spanned decades. The evidence was overwhelming once compiled chronologically. College tuition fully paid for Aaron versus my scholarship and 3 jobs. The car gifted to him versus the luggage given to me. The down payment assistance for his first home versus the loan application I was denied when asking for their co-signature. My team also gathered evidence of the recent harassment, the threatening legal letter, the unauthorized contact with my business associates, the ambush at my office, and most damning of all, the emails outlining their commission scheme for pressuring me. With this documentation in hand, we prepared cease and desist letters for each family member involved, explicitly prohibiting further defamatory statements or interference with my business relationships. Simultaneously, I met with my company's board to explain the situation transparently, sharing the documented evidence of my family's attempts to interfere with our acquisition. Rather than damaging my professional standing, my honesty strengthened it. The board unanimously expressed their support, with several members sharing similar experiences with family financial pressure. Unfortunately, this is not uncommon when entrepreneurs achieve significant success, our chairman said sympathetically. The company stands behind you completely. As a precautionary measure, I hired a respected PR firm to prepare a counter-narrative if my family escalated their public attacks. The strategy focused on my journey as a self-made entrepreneur who had overcome significant obstacles, including lack of family support, to build a successful company that employed dozens of people. With these protections in place, I was finally ready for the confrontation I had been avoiding. Without warning, I drove to my parents' house on a Sunday afternoon when I knew the entire family would be gathered for their weekly dinner, including Aaron and Rachel. The shocked expressions when I walked in unannounced were almost comical. My mother recovered first, quickly shifting to her concerned parent routine. "Julia, what a lovely surprise. We were just talking about you." "I'm sure you were," I replied calmly, placing a thick folder on the dining table. "I thought it was time we had an honest conversation about family money and expectations." My father's eyes narrowed. "If you've reconsidered our proposal, We're certainly open to discussion. I've brought some documentation I'd like to review with you, I said, opening the folder and spreading out several pages of financial records. This is a comprehensive accounting of the financial support provided to Aaron versus myself throughout our lives. The records were meticulous, divided into categories: education expenses, transportation, housing assistance, gifts, and miscellaneous support. The disparity was stark and undeniable when presented in black and white. According to these records, which include bank statements, property records, and tax filings, you paid approximately $150,000 for Aaron's education, while contributing zero to mine beyond normal high school expenses. My mother's face flushed. This is ridiculous. We supported both our children equally. The documentation suggests otherwise, I continued steadily. Aaron received a car valued at $25,000 for his high school graduation. I received luggage worth approximately $200. I moved methodically through the evidence, highlighting each instance of financial favoritism throughout our lives. Aaron's expression darkened with each revelation, while Rachel looked increasingly uncomfortable beside him. When Aaron wanted to purchase his first home, you provided a $50,000 down payment. When I asked you to co-sign a $5,000 loan for essential equipment to start my business, you refused. My father attempted to interrupt several times, but I held up my hand, determined to finish. I've also documented the recent harassment campaign against me, including the unauthorized contact with my business associates, the ambush at my office using children as emotional pawns, and most concerning, this email detailing your plan to extract $2 million from me and split it 3 ways, with you taking a $500,000 management fee. My mother's face went pale. Where did you get that? You had no right to access our private communications. It was sent to multiple members of my company's leadership team, I explained. Apparently, in your eagerness to pressure me from all angles, you accidentally included people you shouldn't have. Aaron suddenly stood up, his face contorted with rage. This is all a twisted interpretation. You've always been jealous of my relationship with Mom and Dad. Now you're trying to turn everyone against us because you're too selfish to help your own brother. His outburst revealed more about his character than any evidence I could have presented. Rachel flinched beside him, her eyes downcast. I'm not here to argue or accuse, I said calmly. I'm here to establish clear boundaries. I've prepared legal cease and desist notices for each of you, prohibiting further defamation or interference with my business relationships. I handed out the individually addressed envelopes. Additionally, I want to be clear that any future relationship between us will be based on mutual respect and genuine care, not financial expectations or transactions. As my parents and Aaron sputtered in outrage, I noticed Rachel slip away from the table toward the kitchen. Following my instinct, I excused myself and found her there, hands braced against the counter, shoulders shaking slightly. Rachel? I said quietly. She turned, her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Julia. I never wanted any of this. Aaron told me we were just asking for a small loan, but then the amount kept growing. And the plans kept changing, and suddenly it was this whole scheme. It's not your fault, I assured her. But I need to understand what's really going on with Aaron financially. They keep talking about struggling business and school tuition, but he drives a luxury car and wears designer clothes. Rachel glanced nervously toward the dining room before lowering her voice. Gambling debts. Online mostly, but some trips to Vegas too. At least 70,000 that I know about, but I suspect there's more. He's been taking money from the children's college fund to cover losses. Your parents know. They've bailed him out twice already. Her revelation confirmed my financial advisor's suspicions and explained the desperate intensity of their campaign to extract money from me. This wasn't about legitimate business needs or education expenses. It was about covering up Aaron's addiction and financial mismanagement. Rachel, if you ever need help, especially regarding the children's education or your own safety, please contact me directly, I said, writing my private email on a napkin. This offer is for you and the kids, not Aaron. After returning to the dining room and concluding the confrontation, I issued a carefully crafted public statement addressing the rumors that had been circulating. In recent weeks, some misleading information has been shared regarding my company and personal finances. I want to clarify that my success is the result of years of hard work, innovation, and the contributions of our entire talented team. While I value family deeply, all financial decisions regarding my company and personal resources will be made thoughtfully and independently. I appreciate the support of colleagues and friends during this time. The statement was professional and measured, but sent a clear message that I would not be bullied or manipulated. I also arranged a private meeting with Aaron, offering not cash, but something potentially more valuable: connection to a financial counselor specializing in gambling addiction and debt management. His immediate rejection of this help in favor of continued demands for cash confirmed what I already knew, that this was never about genuine need, but about easy money without accountability. In the following weeks, I committed fully to moving forward without toxic family ties. Beginning the painful but necessary process of grieving the family I had always wished for while accepting the reality of the one I actually had. With the support of friends, colleagues, and my therapist, I gradually built a new support system comprised of people who valued me for my authentic self, not for what I could provide them. It was a difficult journey, marked by moments of doubt and loneliness, but ultimately leading toward genuine connection and self-acceptance. 6 months later, I stood in the gleaming lobby of our company's new headquarters, watching as employees celebrated the successful completion of our acquisition. The deal had finally closed at $16 million, slightly higher than the initial offer due to our continued growth during negotiations. While the financial success was gratifying, I found deeper satisfaction in what I had chosen to do with my portion of the proceeds. After securing my own financial future with prudent investments, I had established the Future Innovators Foundation, providing scholarships and mentorship to underprivileged students pursuing careers in technology. You've created something truly meaningful here, Stephanie said, joining me by the window overlooking the city. Not just the company, but what comes next. The foundation had become my passion project, a way to give others the support I had lacked during my own journey. Working with these talented young people, many from challenging family backgrounds, had become an unexpected source of healing for me as well. Sometimes the family we create is more important than the one we're born into, I reflected. Over these months, I had discovered the joy of building relationships based on genuine connection rather than obligation or utility. My circle now included friends, mentors, colleagues, and students who valued me for exactly who I was, not what I could provide. The contrast became even clearer when, inevitably, my parents attempted to reconcile after Aaron's real estate business completely collapsed amid revelations of financial impropriety. Their initial message struck the same old manipulative tone, filled with vague references to family healing while hinting at their continuing financial concerns. With my therapist's support, I responded with firm but compassionate boundaries, offering a relationship only on healthy terms with no financial component whatsoever. I am open to rebuilding our relationship based on mutual respect and genuine care, but my financial decisions remain entirely separate from our family interactions. They tested these boundaries repeatedly in the following weeks, each time meeting the same consistent response from me. It was emotionally draining but necessary work, establishing a new pattern after decades of unhealthy dynamics. Surprisingly, several extended family members reached out independently, having seen through the manipulation. My Aunt Jane called one evening, her voice heavy with regret. "I owe you an apology, Julia. I let your parents control the narrative without hearing your side." The more I observed, the more I realized something wasn't right about their version of events. These connections, based on genuine understanding rather than financial interest, were tentative first steps toward building a healthier extended family network, even as the core relationship with my parents remained complicated. The most unexpected development came when Rachel contacted me privately about 3 months after our confrontation. Aaron's gambling had worsened, leading to their separation and her struggle to maintain stability for the children. True to my word, I helped not with direct cash to Aaron, but by establishing education trusts for Emma and Jacob that could only be used for their schooling, completely outside of Aaron or my parents' control. I also connected Rachel with resources for rebuilding her career after years of being financially dependent. "You had every reason to turn your back on all of us," Rachel said during a quiet lunch, "away from the rest of the family. Thank you for seeing that the children shouldn't pay for their father's mistakes." As my professional success continued to grow, I found the emotional freedom that came from breaking codependent patterns was far more valuable than any financial achievement. The constant anxiety of seeking approval from those incapable of giving it had lifted, replaced by a calm certainty about my own worth and boundaries. When my birthday arrived, I celebrated not with the family that had caused so much pain, but with the chosen family that had supported me through my darkest moments. Chloe, Andrew, Stephanie, Eleanor, and others gathered to celebrate not just another year, but the journey toward authentic living. To Julia, Chloe toasted, raising her glass, who taught us all that courage sometimes means walking away, even from the people we've spent a lifetime trying to please. The deepest lesson from this painful journey was the realization that self-worth cannot be externally validated, particularly from those who see relationships as transactional. I had spent years attempting to earn the approval of parents who were fundamentally incapable of providing it unconditionally. I also came to understand that true generosity flows from love, not obligation or manipulation. The joy I found in supporting my foundation students came from genuine care for their development, expecting nothing in return except the satisfaction of seeing them grow. Each day brought new opportunities to practice these lessons, to build the life and relationships I deserved rather than chasing the approval I would never receive from my family of origin. It wasn't always easy, but it was always worth it. Looking back at the painful turning point at my father's birthday dinner, I realized that Aaron discovering my financial success had ultimately been a blessing in disguise. It had forced into the open dynamics that had been simmering beneath the surface my entire life, finally allowing me to address and heal from them. Life continues to unfold in unexpected ways, bringing both challenges and joys I never anticipated. The difference now is that I face them as my authentic self, surrounded by genuine support, no longer seeking validation from those who see me only for what I can provide. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family over money or other issues? How did you navigate prioritizing your well-being while managing family expectations? Share your experiences in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life journeys. Remember that your worth is never determined by what you can give others, but by the authenticity and compassion you bring to the world. Thank you for listening to my story today.